Hi, Healthy Stripe Tube. This is Chris, and I'm really excited this morning to have Jim Crew take a break from his farrier work over at the Pirelli Center in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, where we are right now. And so I'd like to thank Jim for coming in this morning and taking this time to share with us.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here, and it's going to be an honor to do the information that we're wanting to do to help people to see for themselves all of the questions that I get calls for and get emails from, and so excited to try this project on for size and see what direction it goes in.
Oh, great. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
So tell us, how long have you been a farrier?
Oh gosh, over 50 years. Yeah, and started out when I was a youngster and riding young horses for my granddaddy, and used to ride them out to the end of the road, and this old guy would shoe them under a shade tree out there, and I started learning from him, watching him and learning, and then developed this idea that I wanted to be a horse trainer, and so I got really blessed with some really nice horses to get to work with. And the problem I had with being in such a remote area, I was out of the mainstream of the good farriers that knew what my horses needed, and so I had to sort of double venture. I had to learn to be a horseshoer, and then had to at the same time wanted to learn to be a good horse trainer, and I was blessed with having some great horses. But I studied under and got to watch some really seriously great horseshoers, and my mindset was so in that direction that it was very easy for me to comprehend what they were doing versus when the mechanic works on my truck. I am lost. And so it was very easy to develop this, and as the more I learned about it and the more I became active, the more I got interested in stride and health of a horse, and how horses, why horses were short strided or long strided, or why horses could not turn to the right or the left, and so that was the basis of it. And I guess I actually put my first shoes on when I was 13 or 14 years old, and that was when Moby Dick was a minnow. That's been that long, but that was a creation of it, and so I've been blessed with shoeing some world champions and several breeds, and then just really living the dream right now, shoeing patent under Pirelli's horses. It's a real challenge, but the program is so consistent that I get to try things and study the results of it in a semi-scientific way.
Right.
Because the feeding is very adequate, the training is right on the button,
Mm-hmm.
So nothing changes hardly except the improvement in the horse. And so I get to watch the shoe wear, I get to watch the foot development, I get to watch the horse's mental and emotional development, and emotional development has a lot to do with pain in a horse. And when you find the spot in a horse that's bothering him, you have solved a lot of mysteries for him.
Right.
And then the mental starts to come together, So it's a fabulous journey to get to do this, and I enjoy being around them so much, and I learn so much from them, and I get to share my knowledge with them, and they have an open mind about listening to me as well.
Great. It sounds like a win-win.
Yeah, it's definitely a win-win for both of us, But gosh, it's been over 50 years of bending over. And so
that's how you stay in shape.
Oh yeah, I get my cardiovascular every day. But I do shoot 7 days a week, and I'm on the phone quite a bit helping people with their horses that have different problems, and they'll have a friend that's had a horse shot by me, or been to one of our clinics, and we have clinics all over the country, and all of a sudden they're craving the same information that their friend has.
Right.
And so we get to work with a lot of very good open-minded horseshoers across the country, and help them just understand raising one shoulder or raising one hip changes the whole horse, And so a lot of guys are a little timid about putting pads under horses' feet, and so some of them you coach them a little bit, and some just don't accept it,
Right.
And most of those owners actually end up looking for another farrier, and so it all works out in the rain, and so just keep working at it.
So tell us how the name Healthy Stride was born.
Okay. As I said a while ago about working on the stride, my whole career it's been about healing the stride of a horse. Right? And horses are basically lame from a owner-horse relationship. They're basically lame in three ways. You have rein lameness, which is actually the reins you ride, where they're stiff and they're not flexing correctly, you know. And then you have posture imbalance lameness, where the shoulders or the hips are out of level, forward or backwards, and we don't think of that as being really complicated until we think of how many muscles are trapped under there.
Right.
Deep myofascial release is how you get this. So what we do is put the frame back in the correct position through shoeing, allowing these muscles to start. And lots of horses we suggest that they have chiropractic work additionally, and chiropractic work is fabulous, and massage therapy.
Right.
You know, and so we fix the frame, and then we get the muscles back in the correct positions, and then the other lameness you have is your lower leg lameness, is your lower limbs, you know. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times you'll go to look at a horse and try to think about what's wrong with him, and you do a lot of testing and just nothing is working, when actually the problem is up above. And you have hips that have muscles trapped, therefore a leg can't extend forward or backwards, and you're looking for a bad stifle or a bad hock, and every test you do seems to turn out to be negative, you know, and all of the time it's in the hip or the loin, you know, or the entire sacral apparatus, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I had worked on this for many, many years, and my son Brandon came in with me, and he's really made a great contribution to being outside of the box and having his thought patterns, you know. Mm-hmm. And I had one guy ask me one day, says, why do you and Brandon do some things a little bit differently, you know? And I says, because if I made him do it my way, his mind would be closed, you know. And he gets to do things, he gets to make mistakes, he gets to develop lots of exciting things, you know. And his leg loading theory is really fascinating to study and listen to. But in the process of doing this over a period of time, and then I became the Pirelli farrier, you know, and Pat was telling me about his history, and so he said, we've got to name what you do. We've got to give it a name, you know. And I went into his house the next morning, you know, and had this little piece of paper laying on his table, you know, and it's Healthy Stride. And I thought, my goodness, that has been something in the back of my mind for years, because I've been healing thy stride, and healthy and healing thy is the same word, you know.
It is.
And so that's how Pat helped me name it, you know, and actually named it. He didn't help me name it. He sort of named it, you know, for me, you know.
So he branded you Healthy
Stride.
Stride.
He branded me Healthy Strides, you know, and so that's how it came about, and the principles of Healthy Stride itself is we are a corporation, but we're open to teaching owners, farriers, barefoot trimmers, or anyone that's just a horse enthusiast. You know, we have a lot of veterinarians that are starting to come and just see what we're doing and get an idea, you know, and they're starting to open up to the ideas, you know. And one of our theories are the early breakover shoe theory, you know, and a lot of veterinarians go into that. So it's getting to be a real neat group of people that's getting larger all the time that are following this procedure, and we offer owners to come and stay 3 or 5 days with us at the Pirelli Ranch in the shoeing shop, and if they specifically prefer to be barefooted and study the barefooted, I line up them when I have all of my barefooted horses to trim.
Right.
And then if I have owners who actually ride up in the Rocky Mountains and things like this, or up in the Smoky Mountains, you know, that really have to have shoes on to protect the horse in that environment,
Right.
They come while we're shoeing. And they don't really learn to shoe a horse, and it's not that. They do learn to pull a shoe off, and they do learn to clean feet, and they do learn the procedure that we do, but it is understanding when your horse cannot canter on both leads correctly, if your horse can't turn right or left correctly and safely, they get into the mode of helping evaluate the horse, feeling the shoulders, feeling the hips, picking the feet up and looking at them. And when they go home, they have a tool that they can aid their farrier with. And I have several owners that have taken our leather pads home with them, and they'd show their farrier and they'd put a pad under it and say, look, now my horse's shoulders are level. The interesting thing is look at my horse's head. He's dropping his head, he's relaxing, he's licking and chewing, his eyes are going to blinking, he's releasing endorphins, because now we have unlocked his shoulders and he feels better. And they just ask farrier, trim his feet, put this pad between this foot and your shoe, and going about your business, and they're happy as they can be. And the farrier's got a good gig, And so from the farrier standpoint, we have a lot of owners that sponsor their farrier to come to us, and their farrier, they will just make an agreement with him. If you'll go down and learn this so that you can do for my horse what Jim does for Pat Linda's, I'll pay all of your expenses to go down there.
That's a great idea.
And sometimes 2 or 3 owners get together and do that, And so the farrier comes down, and when the farriers come, they actually bring nippers that they prefer to use if they like that, and use ours,
Right.
But they bring their shoeing hammer.
Yeah.
And we furnish everything else. We have 2 or 3 shoeing boxes on the floor, and several set stands, and the hoof jacks, and the whole 9 yards. And so they actually participate in the shoeing, the trimming, the pulling the shoes, the clinching, and the evaluation. And after the first 2 days of watching me and doing this, then on the 3rd day they actually start putting in the pads and putting in the shims, and we use a lot of vet tape products, outstanding products to pour to connect the sole to the ground, And so they learn our version of putting the vet tape. We learned ours from vet tape. We didn't create anything,
Right.
But they learn how we do it in order to sustain the very theory that barefooted people believe in and are correct, that the sole and the frog and the bars and have to make contact with the ground and have some relationship for support.
Right.
And that's why we use the vet tape products to fill in when we have to use orthotics to raise a shoulder or hip, So it's a neat combination of so many great tools out there to get a horse to where they're just, they live a fabulous life of performance, whether you be trail riding or they're just your personal best friend in the backyard and you have your own playground and you just go out there and do that. It's just, it's a relaxing way to do, but if your horse is posturally out of balance, there are certain disciplines he cannot do. And because he cannot do them, does not mean that when you're trying to teach him that you are getting through to him. He is learning it. He's learning the command. Because he cannot do it doesn't mean that he's not learning it.
Right.
The moment you fix him, you will see that this horse instantly starts doing it. It is amazing to watch the mentality of a horse who has been taught by an avid amateur student or professional, and then when you fix him to where he's posturally balanced, equal weight on his feet, equal turn, and he just goes out and does flying lead changes, just does all the kind of things,
Well, I'm so excited because, personally I've been able to experience your work with horses and, other Pirelli students and horse owners and having seen it for myself, I think it's one of those things you have to, you want to say you have to see it to believe it, but,
Sure.
It was so impressive and so moving to see a horse change from a horse that I've known for so many years, and not one of my horses, but a fellow student and instructor. And so that is why I'm so excited about what you provide to the horse industry. And I'm hoping that what we can do is create your techniques to be standardized and not the alternative.
Absolutely, yes.
So